this stuff.
Okay, Mike, how you been doing?
I've been doing okay. Busy.
Yeah, I can see that. Very busy, and I guess that's a good thing, I hope.
Yes. Yeah, it actually is.
Mike, you were last on November 6th, and we had a great we had you on 3 Thursday nights in a row as this third wave of the 5 waves of energy was approaching. You shared with us that it was going to hit somewhere between November 9th and November 12th. You were on the money. It hit on November 9th and 10th, according to spaceweather.com. They actually published it, showed the charts, everything. And it was huge, okay? It was huge. It was off the charts. The magnetic field off the charts showed that we'd got hit by a wave of energy. Now, then on November 11th, there was another wave that hit. That wave was different than the first two in that it was called a slow wave, but it hit and it was recorded by the U.S. Geological Survey. And they reported it, that it happened. And even an article was written with, basically, we don't know where this wave come from or how it happened. It came from the cosmos. So, all right. Yes, the volcanoes are erupting. Mount Etna hadn't erupted in 10 years. It blew its top. The other one over there in Indonesia blew an eruption out the side, caused a landslide, tsunami. Look, we can see these things are happening. So tell us, Mike, what does this all mean at this point?
Well, with that buildup, it's a bubble effect in the Earth, inside the Earth. In other words, a lot of magma, a lot of particulates inside of the Earth. The Earth is constantly absorbing them, and it's beginning to overwhelm everything. It's a cumulative effect, which means it won't go backward. It's just going to build up and continue to build up. So that the first reaction from the Earth is a massive instability in volcanism. As far as magma, it's becoming harder. The temperature's going up. Secondary effects all over the face of the Earth, which will also continue to build. And one of the main most dangerous aspects of this is biological organisms and what's going to happen to them.
What does that mean, Mike? What do you mean by that?
Well, with the radiation increase, there are 2 types of radiation that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with terrestrial radiation, which is from the Earth, and also galactic cosmic rays that continue to pour in to our portion of the solar system. Biologically, we've not been introduced to radiation at this high of a level and this consistent of inbound particulates. So that's also going to change parts of biology of the human brain, being more specific.
Okay, now it is going to change. I mean, I've just read some articles here tonight. I've been sharing with people that this reactive oxygen species, what they call ROS, is cosmic waves or charged particles, radiation, that creates a reactive oxygen species within the human body, ROS, which then it messes up our DNA, causes higher bad heart condition, higher cancer rates, and so now they're trying to figure out how to make these perfect protons or proton crystals, these perfect crystals they call it. They can make them in space and bring them back down and interject them into people's bodies. So they're trying to figure out a way to deal with the radiation. Are they doing this, you think, Mike, because they know the heavy radiation that's coming?
They do. We've been dealing with the increased risk of cancer and cancer rates all over the earth, right? Yeah. Everybody has, and in most families now, somebody has cancer. Most of that is because one of the risks of radiation would be our carcinogenesis, which means it's going to affect certain systems of the body, but the higher risks, the risks that they study at the International Space Station, is what they're actually looking at. Now, normal cases on Earth, you don't have to worry about acute radiation risks from space radiation, but now we do.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at skin injuries from radiation, right? You're looking at DNA, what do they call that? It's when the DNA, these charged particles can actually strike the DNA, right?
Right.
The DNA becomes deformed inside of
Yes.
the cell. The cell's instructions are distorted. It replicates. It gets passed off to children. So you have that effect. You have some bad mutations in the DNA. But the worst part about it is the magnetic level of the Earth itself is changing. That is bad for human brains. That's bad for the brain, period, because it can drive a person into a steep madness. Now, in one of the studies that's being performed right now, some of the electromagnetic effects of the brain are jaw-dropping. Just something that a person can put together in their own home, right, driven by one AA battery, can cause a person to go insane. And the device can be a little more than 2 feet away with radiation that's hardly detectable. So imagine each person, right, being exposed to a bucket-sized, imagine a bucket with the mass of a bucket, a full mop bucket, right, full of this type of particles, but at least 12 for every person on Earth, and at least maybe that same number for all animals on Earth. So then with that type of radiation being pumped into the atmosphere and everything else, we're looking at a global change, right?
Right.
The sky is going to be a telltale sign of this. Once this radiation accumulates, it's going to cause minerals and everything else to begin to change their molecular form, which means your average rainfall, right, can actually burn right through your skin. And that's because of when you have, at CERN, you have high-speed particles that are being ejected towards each other. Out of that explosion comes new particles, right?
Yes.
So in space, what's happening now is the same thing is happening in the upper atmospheres. New particles are being developed. Of course, they do die out, but they're starting to, the explosions are so normal now, I guess you could say, that it's coming closer to the surface.
Hey, Mike, is this acid rain, or is this radiation just in the rain? I mean, what would you call this? I mean, this rain.
Well, think of it this way. If you took a cup of water, if somebody were to take a cup of water and put it in between the Hadron Collider where the explosion, where the collision takes place, right?
Right.
The water itself would no longer be water. It would turn into multiple types of materials. It would turn to silver in some respects, gold. It would turn to arsenic, lots of arsenic. It would turn into different types of materials. If those same highly charged particles, right, the cosmic galactic rays, essentially that's what they are. And they're speeding towards us. Right. When they smack any other object there, they start to change the molecule itself, or what a material is, which means water in the atmosphere can actually easily change into arsenic. And that arsenic would then fall like rain, because arsenic can last longer in the presence of, our common atmosphere. But you're looking at events like that taking place. So imagine a thunderstorm, because there will come a time when people are afraid of thunderstorms. They will be afraid of going out in the rain.
Because
and they caution not to go in the rain.
Why would they be afraid? Is it because the rain, the radiation in the rain, or will it be the charged particles and the lightning more static and more opportunity of being electrocuted by the lightning?
The charged particles is going to cause a new element to be formed within the rain. So the rain could be mixed with high portions of arsenic, right? Which means if it touches your skin, it's going to burn right through your skin. It could be acidic particles also. They would be just all over the atmosphere, causing aircraft to rust. With the aircraft aluminum won't rust, but those are acidic chemicals that can eat right through different materials of that aircraft. But imagine that forming in any given thunderstorm. Nobody's going to want to be in the rain. And we're looking at something that it's a level of erosion that it can cause. Let's call that erosion, kind of like a wear down. Can eat through an umbrella in a matter of seconds, right? Kind of like chemical warfare, but without mankind doing it.
It's almost a wormwood effect here. I mean, this is almost what, when the Bible talks about wormwood and the water becomes bitter and many men die because the water is bitter. I mean, we're kind of talking about a wormwood effect here, aren't we?
You know, now that you mention it, that could absolutely be a part of that source. Stephen Hawking published a paper on a phenomenon that happened a few times that he was able to get the data from. And there were a few, some small objects that came into to the Earth. They were meteorites, or let's just say debris from one. But with the meteorite was a specific type of radioactive particle. Well, what it did was it changed water that was on the ground into a type of arsenic that's very corrosive and dangerous. And it was a brownish color, but it killed every single little creature in all the foliage in less than 4 days. It just ate right through them. It killed them. He did an article on that. He was looking at a larger scale happening, because you don't need a meteorite for that to happen. You need highly charged particles, which are coming in right now, right?
Yep.
So as they continue to increase, it's not a maybe this might happen, right? It's almost 100%. It will begin to take place more and more in different places.
Well, yeah, it's going to, because as you know, Mike, it is prophesied in the book of Revelation, in chapter 8 of Revelation, that a wormwood effect is absolutely going to happen. We're not going to get out of this. I mean, mankind, I'm talking. So we have to realize that it's already beginning. I mean, we're beginning to. Let me ask you a question real quick here. Now, these waves of energy. You coined the phrase 5 waves of energy. Looks like we definitely have been hit with number 3. It's documented. There's no doubt about it. So now what does that mean, Mike? I mean, dust is starting to be found in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Texas, brown. Now they're talking about, I'm just reading a space article. I'm reading an article about, hey, they got to figure out a way how to deal with the radiation. We know for sure, they've already been documented, 19% increase of radiation on the planet through the year 2017 and 2018. We have a 19% more radiation than we had in 2016. So it's on. But what is the 4th wave, the 5th wave? What is coming next? You said to us last time you was on, if we can make it through the winter, if we can just get through the winter. So help us out here.
Too many failures about to, begin to become about to prevail. What I mean by that is, when you look at the properties of radiation in the presence of electromagnetic energy or forces, all this man-made stuff we built, number one, we don't need an EMP, right? All these electrical companies and the transformers and the way they're configured, they're at risk. There is no mitigation plan for that. Okay. So you're looking at a magnetic change in just about everything. Now, the properties of a magnetic field are very straightforward and specific. However, with an increase in radiation, all the formulas are thrown off. So what does that mean? That means an infrastructure failure. Now, your audience will begin to notice, without any storms, without anything, transformers blowing, not from overloads.
Whoa!
Change in the magnetosphere.
All right, now, Mike.
The electromagnetic
Mike,
field.
okay. So, Mike, the blue, we call the blue plume. What happened a couple nights ago in New York City, it wasn't just the substation that blew there, but the way it blew, it hummed and it turned blue and it illuminated the sky and over the city. And 6 minutes before that one happened in New York, another substation blew down in Louisiana. I've actually watched the video that was posted on Twitter from Louisiana. It did the exact same thing, the entire substation, as the one in New York. And then CenturyLink went off the grid, the entire phone system. And 9/11 in 12 different states, the 911 systems went down. And my system is still struggling. So are you saying that this is beginning? This is going to become the norm?
Yeah, it'll get pretty rough. Everybody's going to notice that these are electromagnetic forces that are not, a lot of people speculated about what happened in New York, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it happened in about 14 different other places also, that same event, and it has not stopped. So with this first, when people noticed these particles coming into the Earth, right? Those are the shallows. Within this process, this pulse, Pastor, some gigantic bars, or let's say barriers of particles that will pour in back to back. They're not going to stop. They're going to keep pulsing at us, which makes this one the most dangerous one, which is why I keep saying if we can make it through the winter, right, where you have the sun to help us out a little bit, it will offset some of the radioactive particles, right, because we're going to change in relative to the sun. But that only helps us for a little while because the sun is going to begin to react. It's going to take in more and more of these particles, and it's only a matter of time before it consistently affects the Earth. And then we're going to lose. Our shielding is going to be gone. It's just going to be changed and gone. It'll be flat in some areas. It's collapsing in certain areas already.
Go
ahead.
Yeah, we got information that in Africa there's a strange anomaly going on there, to where the magnetic field is not even working. I mean, basically, it's like there's a big hole in our magnetic field. I don't know if that's possible. And you're right. The magnetic field has been greatly weakened. And I know we're in a solar minimum, so that becomes a part of a natural process. But this isn't natural. This isn't what we're normally accustomed to. I mean, is Planet X, is the binary system, or Planet Number 9, or the Goblin, or whatever they want to call it, far out, whatever they want to say. It looks like a slow disclosure is beginning. But is Planet X, or this binary system, is it causing these waves? And they sent those deep space probes out there to find out what's going on. So is that what's causing it? And when do you anticipate wave number 4? What does that mean?
Well, I believe they're trying to confirm. They're trying to get a directional confirmation as to the source, right? I believe they have it. I think they're confirming it. They're spending trillions. They'll spend what they have to spend to confirm it. Also, because it deals with some ancient things, that they're attempting to decipher exactly what the ancients were saying concerning it, because they've reached a time now where they cannot sit there and say it was false. Now, as far as it being a planet, as far as the story dealing with a planet, there's...
Uh-oh. Mike, you there? Mike? Okay. He gone. All right, Mike, can you call back? Apparently, what you're talking about is a little sensitive because somebody shut you down. They just went beep, gone. He gone. He gone. That's Mike from around the world, guys. All right, he's calling back. Here we go. Mike, you there?
Yeah, there went that.
Yeah, so
I've got a lot of interference here right now.
Well, we'll be a little more careful about talking about Planet X. Let's just talk about the waves. Let's just talk about the waves. When do you anticipate wave number 4 so that the people can kind of get out? You don't have to pin you down to an exact date because I know it takes a little time, but do they know the exact date is the next question, and when is it anticipated?
Well, if we can make it through all of this, because a greater half of this band of radiation or bands of radiation that are pouring in will last all throughout 2019. They'll last all throughout there.
This whole year?
A build up. Now, I do know this. There are a few statements that once this one is done, right, there may not be enough moisture in the atmosphere to rain anywhere.
What?
That much I do know.
So is that what the Bible says when it says there will be a famine in the land? It'll rain in one city and not rain in 2 other cities. And the Bible tells us it's going to happen in the last days. And the people in those 2 cities will all they'll start flocking to the one city where it's still raining, but there won't be enough water for everybody. I mean, that's in the Bible. That day is coming.
Yeah, and I think that day is coming pretty soon because the way from the tests of radiation, and of course they have the NASA Space Radiation Laboratory at Brookhaven National Laboratories, right? People are familiar with that. Loma Linda University, the Proton Treatment Center. They replicate galactic cosmic rays to see some of the effects, and what they have learned over the years is not something you really want to publish to anybody, but it can actually affect our atmosphere in such an adverse way that there will be no moisture. The clouds won't be able to form like they have been because of a specific type of radiation. However, even without the rain, some of the electrical storms they will have an impact. Let's see, they will increase. I'm going to try and put this in a number. The average thunderstorm, let's say that will increase by way of its electric potential. That will increase by at least 300%. So your average thunderstorm will be 300% stronger than any storm we're used to, which means a lot of damage based upon that lightning. And we're not telling you, so it won't be safe at all in these storms.
So,
and I'm going to keep, I know I keep echoing storm this, storm that, but the storms are going to start scaring people, and people will be very wary whenever they hear a forecast concerning storms, because they're going to find out they're not what they used to be.
Will the winds, all right, so you're saying the thunderstorms are going to be at some point as much as 300 times greater than normal. Will the winds also, straight line winds, I mean, is the jet stream being affected? How will that be affected?
If the surface of the earth does not hold enough moisture, right, you're going to have a lot more high-pressure systems. If that takes place, when low-pressure systems develop, which will be all over the place, they're going to be very close to each other. In between a high and a low-pressure system are something called isobars. And that's where you get the high winds from. In this case, the storm centers will be so huge and so vast that the isobars could stretch from the west coast to the east coast. You're looking at straight line winds with average wind speeds in the center where those isobars are at least 125 to 200 miles an hour, with some gusts in that, because without moisture, there's no friction, right? Moisture is friction, atmosphere is friction, but we're losing our atmosphere, right? But,
you still there, Mike?
Yes.
Okay. So we're losing our atmosphere. Our magnetic field is weakening. CERN, they're still testing stuff down there. I guess a question for you on CERN, just one real quick. I don't want to divert away from the waves of energy, but CERN is colliding protons at the speed of light. And you mentioned about, well, if they took these crystals, these perfect crystals, or if they actually, the radiation that's coming is affecting our body, if they were to put those in CERN and collide them, you're saying they would create silver or gold or some other type of arsenic. Is that why they're running CERN? Is CERN playing into this at all?
CERN has many facets to it, but I believe one of the reasons they're spending so much time and effort with CERN, well, let me give you one reason, because they're going to try and save their own skins. Number one, above all things, they're going to try and save themselves. They're looking for an out. They're looking for a way out. Why? Because they know what's forming. They can see. A lot of them can see the entire picture. Okay, while everything else is compartmentalized, we can only see a small bit. But in that small part of what we see, in the small part of what I know about, I've seen some people just really, they have a heart to pack up and go home. They just want to quit everything. They keep they'll say, what's the worth of it? Because they're not used to. We've not gone through this before. And this will not be like any times before. It's not going to be that way. What's happening now, with CERN, some of the folks out there noticed about their magnets. Every time they turn CERN on, you have a strong magnetic field that affects the magnetic field of the Earth, or it certainly influences it. One of the miracles of CERN was the development of those magnets, controlled magnets. But they have to see what's happening with these charged particles, because that's precisely what's happening with galactic cosmic rays. The same experiment that they're having is the same thing that happens in outer space. If they can see the effects, and what they do is they have plenty of experiments, but while you have a group of people doing one thing, you'll have another group trying to analyze this data to save their own skins, making better shields for spacecraft, all these different things that they'll do. But they're finding out more and more. It's a funny thing that underneath the earth is the only safe place. I have something to tell you too, Pastor. If anybody were to go underground, right?
Right.
Tells you what type of problem we're going to have.
Yeah.
If they go underground, it's because you don't go underground if magma is going to cover the earth, right?
No.
Not smart, right?
No.
You don't go underground if we're going to have a major flood either. You don't do that. That makes no sense.
No.
You do go underground if you're going to deal with fire in the atmosphere.
Well, there you go, folks. This is Mike from around the world. Heidi, you got a question for him on what?
No, I'm listening.
So you're saying, the reason they've been building these underground cities, and not just the United States doing this, many governments of the world doing this, that they're not expecting the magma to flow. They're not expecting another flood like Noah's day, because God already promised that in the Word, that He would not destroy the earth by water, but it would be by some type of fire. So you're saying the reason they're building these underground is that that's the only way that they see surviving the apocalypse, that the radiation, the fire itself, I've heard you say fire and brimstone is going to start falling. There will be no way to hide this. How far are we away from that event to start happening?
We're pretty close. That will be cinders flying sideways in the air with black smoke. Thick black smoke. We're pretty close to that. And those days are not good. And I know that most people get cautioned about how do you prepare for that type of thing. That's a total different story. But we're looking at a change in our atmosphere. Right?
Is this the wrath of God? Mike, are we talking about the wrath of God here being poured out?
I don't think that would be the wrath.
Okay.
No, I don't think that. I think that's just a change everybody's going to undergo. Pastor, the other day I said this, that I was talking to a person who deals with incarcerated converted Christians, right?
Okay.
But most of the incarcerated individuals said that if they had not been incarcerated, they would not have known Christ the way they do. So in essence, we're talking about people, some are in there for life, some are in there for 5-6 years. If some of them even said that if a day were cut off their sentence, their conversion would not have been complete. So, I was thinking about that. And then, of course, when you read the Bible, you see something about everybody going through something before the wrath of God, right? All these events. And then you find out something. Without a test, we're too distracted.
Right.
We have too many possibilities in our heads of what could be real, what could be salvation, what could be this. So if the Lord were to strip us of all distractions, then we can clearly think and ponder about the real issue.
All right, so you're saying this isn't the wrath of God. This is just going to be a definite change in the world, the way we know it, and people are going to be afraid to go outside. The storms are going to be 300 times thunderstorms, 300 times more dangerous. Yet the atmosphere is going to change to where they won't be able to. At some point, the water's not going to form. We're not going to get rain. Some of the earth is going to get rain. Some of it won't. It's going to get different.
So how do we prepare?
How do we prepare?
Well, due to the water cycle being very different, the water cycle is going to be totally disrupted. And we're looking at changes in our planet to the degree that the atmosphere could be, it's going to be much lower than it normally is. The proper preparation for this, first, being spiritual, would be mental. It'd be a mental preparation. Because, in truth, right, if a person prepares to save their own skins, that's when they're going to panic and do something wrong, right? That's not a good preparation strategy.
Okay.
But if a person can realize, okay, if they can think, they have to think soberly. I mean, very sober. But there are things right now a person can do mentally to prepare themselves. Number one is that they really need to pay attention, right, to what affects them already. They really do. Physically, they need to pay attention to how they're affected already and not live in denial. Number two, they need to get away from as many artificial things as they can. The reason why I say this is if any disaster comes, it's going to upset the pharmaceutical flow. It's going to upset grocery stores. And anybody out there with a habit is not going to be able to pacify that habit. right? The medications are going to stop. So they're going to have to find out how the body reacts absent those things and start making some serious alterations. Now, a person would say, well, I don't have to do any of that because God will take care of me. Well, he won't tie your shoes. He's not going to put your shirt on because we are able to do it. So God requires us to do everything we're able to do. What we're not able to do, he will certainly do, right?
That's
but
right.
We're able to do some things. But the problem with us is we have become, I hate to say this, but procrastination runs pretty deep in this generation. And sometimes we always think we have another day. And so mentally, people ought to pay attention to their bodies to see their own body's limitations. If it does nothing else, it's going to give them the exact thing to pray for, right? To straighten out the push forward. But as far as running out of things, one is going to have to trust the Lord's voice, right? So they're going to have to do that because if they can't hear the Lord, they're going to be tricked. Before these things happen, I suspect something drastic will change in our political system, the way we operate from day to day. I suspect that's going to have to change because there's no way that there's no way people are going to be under the same system and it lasts for so long because things are going to be very obvious.
So,
but before any of that panic or any of that, any of these changes come about, a person needs to be highly aware of their limitations, of their servitude to the Lord, and be mentally ready because fear will paralyze anybody. And fear is a useless, it's very useless for a person to have because it will make you.
So you're saying gridlock's going to have to go away. I mean, and the political games and the investigations and all the hand-wringing, it's going to get to a point where none of that's going to matter. People are going to start talking about how do we deal with these absolute difficult changes that have certainly come upon the earth, and how are we going to deal with this? And it's not like a doomsday effect. It's a gradual process. But as you say, it's coming soon. It's coming quicker. It's not far away. And I guess that's what the audience is wanting to know. Are we talking wave number 4? I think I heard you say wave number 3 is going to basically take the whole year of 2019. It would just continue. Do you see anything major happening in 2019 from this?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely do. One place I'm worried about is Italy. I'm worried about Italy. I'm also worried about parts of the UK and New York City. The reason why is because with these changes, you have an increase in Earth's internal temperatures. As this begins to happen, you're going to have brand new vents opening up. When these vents do open up, right, it's going to cause all the lands to begin to warp. And we're around the Ring of Fire, right? So the U.S. is going to warp as far as its landmass. There are going to be brand new cracks. We've got I think it's 4 new fault lines in America that formed in the course of 5 months. 4 new fault lines in America, right?
Wow.
Sitting right under New York City is a fault line that goes from New York and it travels all the way down to South Carolina. Now, these are brand new. These were not that profound. With this swelling event, you're looking at a shifting of these land masses, swellings, which could really change the surface of things, right? Certainly most of the highways and everything else are going to be affected by these things. They're going to start cracking. People will notice large heaping cracks in highways, right? Sinkholes in places where the land is solid on the highways. It's just, with the chemical change that's taking place with most materials, things are going to change quick.
Our world leaders, Mike, our world leaders, when they get together in these G20 and G7, are they talking about this?
That's exactly what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You would think they would talk about finances and things of that nature, but if you notice in these meetings, they'll have a public meeting where everybody's looking around. It looks like they don't know what anybody's talking about. And then after the cameras leave, they begin to discuss, key word, global warming, right? Even those who don't like global warming, but global warming is not about what humans or animals are doing to the atmosphere.
No.
It's about the changes in the earth. That was established in 2004. Those are about the changes in the earth. It was never about global warming. That's a public, that's for public consumption. That conversation, that's like a code word for something else. So, but they know exactly what they're doing. Now, one of the things they must do, right, is keep the populace engaged, right? So I can say it right now. There's so many things. It's beyond one person's control. Sadly, it is. And there's so many things that are being propped up right now that this year people are going to see a few falls of quite a few things. Have you ever heard of the credit market crashing?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the credit market.
Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about the credit market.
So when that comes around, it's going to have a chemical effect, which will actually it's going to start causing splits in the government. The people are almost ready for that. So what we're going to have is a bunch of folks who are going to split two ways, and their loyalties are going to lie within one or two people. But I would say this, it does not matter what side you're on. Given this specific time, the side you're on won't matter.
Won't matter.
But because people are going to have genuine fear. This won't be a theoretical topic anymore. It's going to be actual fact. It's going to be a problem. And when the fear sets in, people are going to be rushing to shows like this one to try and find out, what's going on. But right now is the time for them to sell their minds and sell in their heart that, okay, the Lord's word is going to come true. Pastor, there's no warning for one other event also. In this wave that's, in this energy that's building up, there are bands that are so difficult to see by any instrument, but they are powerful, right? It's almost like it's close to dark matter, but it's not. It's just very dense. It's very dense. These pulses will probably begin in the month of February. These power pulses, that's for lack of better terms, that's what I'm calling them.
Okay, now when you say their power, are you saying they're charged? Will they create more substation explosions, or will they do what happened, I think, in wave number 1, where you came on here and said, hey, watch out, chemicals are going to start exploding. Chemical plants will start blowing. I mean, there was a 6-month period there, Mike, where there must have been 20 chemical factories that just blew up everywhere. So what do you see happening in 2019? Do you see more substation type electrical explosions, or do you see gas explosions, houses blowing up, or do you see, how's it going to affect?
I think this year we're actually going to see cracks in the earth.
Cracks in the earth.
And a lot of infrastructure issues related to electrical lines, technical equipment, transformers, you name it. Because the magnetic field around everything is about to be supercharged, overly charged.
Okay.
And the polarity of things on Earth, like positively charged things versus negatively charged things, they're going to start to fight, because you're going to have an ionization process, which is actually going to begin to release lots of positive ions. And if nobody knows about this, you're okay with negative ions, but an overwhelming majority of positive ions, if you were ever exposed to that, you're going to have headaches like you wouldn't believe. Your neurological system is going to start failing on you in several different areas. It makes you nauseated and sick, right?
Yep.
There's no apparent change in anything other than the charge of the atmosphere itself of those ions. So that's not good, because it is known this thing carries a pretty hectic charge. So we'll begin to electrify things. And that means massive sickness and psychosis for quite a few people. That means a type of maddening of thoughts and irritation and incredible violence when it comes through. Because it will drive a person to a point of rage. And lots of men get ready for some severe hot flashes.
Yeah, I heard you say that before. Men are going to have hot flashes like, let's say, ladies do. Is that because they're going to have hormonal changes? Is it going to be the DNA makeup of men?
That's their neurological system that's going to wreak havoc. Because women are used to them, they probably won't notice a small increase from time to time. But because men generally do not, they're going to really notice it.
All right, folks. Mike around the world with us. Mike, there's no doubt. I mean, look. We want to have you come back again very shortly. I'm Huh?
Schedule it now.
I want to schedule you right now. Can you come Thursday night? Is that a good night? Can you come back Thursday night? That is going to be January the January
Should work.
2nd. Is that the 2nd?
Third, I think.
Somebody look at today is Sunday the 30th. Monday's the 31st. Tuesday.
Yeah, Wednesday. January 2nd is Wednesday. You're looking for Thursday. It's January 3rd.
Yeah, January 3rd. Can you come back and join us January 3rd? I want to promote this, get people here so they can hear what we're talking about. As you said, as things keep developing, people are going to flock to programs like this because this is where they're going to hear the truth. There's going to be a lot of confusion. And, oh, by the way, people got to get, like you said, mentally prepared and spiritually prepared. Sounds like more than anything else. It's not like going building a bunker somewhere. We got to deal with the fact that it's going to be life-changing, society-changing, molecular changing. So we got to get our mind in Christ, got to get our souls saved.
I was telling Pastor that already on our prayer team, we've seen a huge increase in the children, especially 2- and 3-year-olds with cancer.
Unbelievable. Is that
we've seen an increase in that already, and we've seen on the one graph, the RSOE, they keep saying that there's extreme UV, on the UV not calendar, but what is it, map? They're saying it's extreme, but all the other UV like NOAA and that, they say no. So there's a big
confliction. That we got conflicting reports coming to us from the government readings. NOAA says no problem, everything's fine, and ROSE is saying it's off the charts. So, and radiation levels at 19%. That's spaceweather.com is telling us that, but we're not getting those same reports from NOAA. So what's going on here, Mike?
Well, NOAA would say everything is okay if half the Earth flew off into space somewhere. They say no problem, it's okay. But what you see there is it's a type of internal war. What the people need to know, what they don't need to know. But cancer rates will continue to increase, and some exotic. This is the difference between terrestrial radiation, which is what we're used to, and GCRs. When you have galactic cosmic rays, they wreak havoc on your central nervous system. They are the causes of, because Earth radiation, it is still undetermined if it actually causes cancer or not. The only thing they're sure of is galactic cosmic rays. Here's why. Because when those particles flying near the speed of light fly right through the body, knock out parts of the DNA, it just totally corrupts a cell, mutates it, and then that mutated cell gives way to cancer. So they know that is a contributor. But radiation, terrestrial radiation, is not well understood if it can contribute, right, to cancer. Fukushima events like that is different than having a radiation, than being in the presence of some pure radiation, right? Because with all the radioactive elements like U-35 and all these different things, you have high-speed, you have particles shooting out of those nuclear rods all the time. So if you get around them, that's how you get exposed, right?
Right.
But Earth-based radiation is, let's just say, it's somewhat slow. It's more like a mist. Space-based radiation is like somebody shooting at M60 all the time, right? It passes right through you and knocks the core of your cells out. And then it ionizes things around it because it will knock the nucleus out of things. That is deformation, nervous system failure. That is brand new children being born are going to be born without the presence of certain things in the body that have checks and balances on the cells, thus giving way to very high cancer rates. And those cancer rates are off the chart.
Yeah.
I mean,
and Heidi's telling you, we get prayer requests come in here, Mike, on a daily basis from all over the world, okay? And all of a sudden, the cancer among children under the age of 2 is way not even in proportion.
One of our babies was born with cancer.
Born with cancer. Kids are under the age of 1. They're coming down with cancer, leukemias of every kind. Now, look, it's not like there hasn't been leukemia or cancer in children. We know that does happen. It always has happened, but not at this level, not at these numbers. And there's something that is certainly, and so, you know, again, I'm going to talk.
We've had 3 babies, 2 and 3 years old, in the Northwest Indiana area in 6 weeks.
So, I mean, that's off the charts. That's people we know. That's the ones we know. We don't know everybody in Northern Indiana, obviously. So these numbers are off the charts, and so Mike, what you're saying is really good information that we need to continue to share and inform the public. You've been coming on. God showed you in a dream to work with me. You've been coming on the show for over 5 to 6 years, and this has been a really good process of letting people know it was coming. It's coming. It's coming. Well, now, folks, it's not just coming. It's here, and now let's. And I'm studying the scriptures. We can read right now Isaiah 24. We can read all throughout the scripture of Revelation of the very events that we're feeling, that we're receiving, were prophesied to happen in the Bible.
What time on Thursday?
Thursday, Mike, can you come on the air at 10 o'clock? I'll go live at 10 p.m. Can you come on at 10:15?
I can do that.
All right.
I can do that.
All right. Well, we're going to let you go. We're running out of time. Let you go tonight. I'll see you this coming Thursday night, January 3rd.
I'll be here.
All right. And I appreciate you coming. I know you're very busy. I don't want to tie up your time, but we're saying we do really respect this and appreciate you coming.
Not a problem. God bless both of you.
God bless, Mike. Amen.